Back in 1993, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were riding high on media popularity. The cartoon was entering its 7th season, a 3rd movie was making its way to theaters, and the Super Nintendo was ready to host the best beat-em-up video game ever, TMNT4 Turtles in Time. But the portable gaming market was not going to be left behind, as 93 also saw the release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Radical Rescue on the Nintendo Game Boy. Surely this entry was able to keep up with the action of all its media brethren, right? The game puts you right into the title screen, where you can choose to start a new game or continue a run via a password system. Starting a new game gives you a short plot setup, where everyone but Michelangelo have been taken hostage by a mysterious new enemy. It's up to the party turtle to rescue his buds from a seemingly abandoned mine on the outskirts of town. The game plays like a metroidvania, a first for the series. You're already given a map of the mines. However, it only shows room proximity and locations of key items or rooms. What you have to figure out is how to navigate all of those rooms and discover how they connect, all the while surviving the enemies and traps placed along the way. There are a few items to help you out. Some enemies will drop pizza slices that will allow you to heal, and there's a full pizza box that you can carry. It acts like a resurrection item when you lose all of your health, and trust me, you're gonna need it a lot. You'll also find key cards that will allow you to enter locked doors, and jail keys that you win off of bosses to unlock prison doors. You have access to some basic moves like attacking and jumping, as well as a ranged ninja star attack that can only be done while hanging off of a ladder. Michelangelo also has a special move that lets him use his nunchucks like a helicopter to slow down his drop speed from a jump, allowing him to cross long open pits and platform easier. As you progress and rescue his brothers, you unlock more special moves that will aid in progressing deeper into the mines. Leonardo can use his katana to drill down into loose rocks or weakened metal floors. Raphael is able to pop into his shell to allow him to traverse over spikes and similar obstacles. And Donatello is capable of scaling up and down walls. As you go through the game, you'll constantly be switching between every turtle just so you can move ahead and overcome varying obstacles. When I started this game again for the first time in a while, I thought the controls felt a bit clunky. At first I thought I was having old man reaction speed, and that I just needed to get used to the game again. However, later on is when I realized that that was not the case. It felt like the game would eat input because it wants to finish animations first, which really hindered any sense of responsiveness from the controls. There were a lot of off-screen traps that just made traversing the maze a pain. Having some of these are fine and all for challenge, but just about every room had these, and it was getting tiring really fast. Also, very early on, you have to make pixel-perfect jumps just to move along, so it's a real enjoyment killer when you already have to make multiple attempts just to grab a ladder or head over to another room. And the time delay of going in and out of the map and turtle select screens just slows everything down to a crawl. The boss fights are frustrating and cheap, so much so that you have to be equally cheap just to stand a chance of winning. Coupled with the clunky controls and the strong hits from the bosses, make it not a good time at all. Now, I will say this, using a stripped-down Metroidvania formula was at least a decent risk to take, especially with the TMNT brand being able to help move units. It made for a more interesting game compared to the prior two, it's just too bad that it was not very well refined. The gameplay of Radical Rescue gets a 5 out of 10. So this is definitely the best looking Ninja Turtles game on the Game Boy. The turtle sprites didn't feel tight on screen, which tends to be an issue with the handheld console. While the foot soldiers look like they had a bad case of hunchback, their artwork looks decent. Same with just about all enemies and bosses. And the turtles themselves look pretty good. The decision to base their designs off the comic book models, as opposed to the more cartoony TV models, looks to have paid off here. The backgrounds and environments work pretty well too. The far details can be seen as pretty basic with giant swaths of empty space, but they seem to smartly insert a few variable details just to break up the monotony. And foreground details looks pretty good actually. Good use of shading for depth, and everything is clear and readable. Honestly though, they had to look good, because this game only takes place in a cave system and a technologically advanced base hidden in a mine. That's it. That's all the environments you get. Okay, so yes, it's outdoors in the first area you start the game in, and there's maybe a handful of other outdoor areas too, but they're so far and few in between. Basically, if the backgrounds didn't look this good, I would have had to question what their excuse was. The graphics of Radical Rescue get a 9 out of 10. In classic TMNT video game fashion, the first stage music is an 8-bit rendition of the main title song from the show, and it's surprisingly crafted very thoroughly. Best one on the Game Boy by far, but you get to hear it for almost a minute at best before you enter the mine, which has a lot of other tunes in it. The cave music starts off a bit serious, but then the fun-loving notes come in and remind you that this is a Ninja Turtles game. Going into the techno fort gives you a poppy tune which lightens the mood a bit. There are deeper cave levels that have other tunes that start to lean more towards the scarier tone, but the lighthearted ones are still interjected from room to room. The sound effects all work well, from the swinging of the turtles' weapons to the satisfying explosions of downed enemies. Even the little bats get an explosion, and that kinda makes me chuckle. Sounds are implemented well early on, but some later stages have sounds layering over one another too much, and it starts to sound pretty garbled. Thankfully, this isn't prevalent in many rooms, but it's definitely located in a few places you need to traverse more than once. The music and sound of Radical Rescue gets an 8 out of 10. This game was gifted to me while visiting some aunts in Winnipeg. As an avid Ninja Turtles fan, I was extremely grateful, and of course, fired it up the next time we had any downtime. Unfortunately, with every passing session, it was becoming clearer each time that this game was just not for me. However, on principle alone, I made sure to keep giving it more playtime while there, if for nothing else, just to show my appreciation for the gift. But when I got back home, I don't think this game saw the slot of my Game Boy ever again. The nostalgia hit of Radical Rescue gets a 2 out of 10. This third installment of handheld Ninja Turtles definitely tried some unique things to shake up the formula, so kudos for that. However, risks can be hit or miss, and it varies from person to person. For me, this game looked and sounded great, but that wasn't enough to have me get over the clunky controls and poor design disguised as challenge. As a big fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it pains me to say that this rescue was anything but radical.